Okay.
Okay. I heard that you were talking about mayla mata. I want to sometimes miss a certain nuance, which, if you think into it, it really reveals the principle. We start from the line that begins mayla mata. Not too far, not too much back, but okay, this is 7 lines from the top. Mayla mata. The Hamakabri Melyena Shel Kav, those who receive their oil from the top portion of the Kav, Shekoriv Yeser El Hoir Ein Sof, which is closer. Melyena Shel Kav means because this is closer to the Oir Ein Sof. Oir Ein Sof means the source of the Kav. The Kav is formed in a multi-pointed line. Oil Ein Sof does not have any limits at all. It's the entire reality of the oil, and the Melyena Shel Kav is rooted in there, and it's closer to this Oil Ein Sof. Oil Ein Sof is not something that we can even dream of understanding, but only in contrast of what we are thinking of. You have to understand the significance of these words. Oil Ein Sof means that this is an oil that represents a principal truth. It's not based on any kind of parameters. The Rambam says, Motzoi Rishon. This is where Oil Ein Sof, what Oil Ein Sof reveals and represents. Oil Ein Sof truly brings the principle of etzem, of the truth, right there with it. The Kav is a formulation that is drawn from that, and this formulation, as it descends further down, loses some of the clarity in its connection in its representation of the Oil Ein Sof. So the closer it is to the top, the more it is bringing with it the element of Oil Ein Sof. So those worlds and spheres that are inspired, that get their input from Melyena Shel Kav, they are higher. Again, what does it mean they are higher? What is high and low in this? What does it mean high and low? Let us take one of the illustrations that we've used in the past, which are extremely clear and simple. Somebody is standing on a high tower on the Empire State Building, and someone is standing on the ground, and they're both trying to identify the pathway to get from point A to point B. Those who are on the ground identify the point A and point B relative to other points. Oh, this is this street. Oh, this must be further down. This must be this way. This must be this way. It's all within the context, within the complex of the street structure. Whereas one who is standing on top of the Empire State Building and he sees point A and point B directly, does not and all relate these 2 points via the contours of the streets. He sees their relationship directly. He sees it from a higher perspective, from a truth perspective. They're really related. The street structure is a superimposed element, a means to design an undesignable in an open field. To be able to orient yourself to make street names. But essentially you're walking on an open field. From the Empire Steel Wing perspective, you see it from that perspective. You see it from a complete different level, a different viewpoint. This means Elyoin, higher. Because this is Oirin Soif. The truth is that's Oirin Soif. As you go down in the curve, you lose sight of the inner soif. You recognize only that which you can identify with, the spheres and so forth, the Ermis. And this is called the mayla mato in Oilamis or in spheres.
The person on the top of the tower identifies that it's just an open field, but how is there meaning in an open field? He's supposed to be like seeing it from a higher perspective.
Oirin Soif. Does it mean the meaning in Oirin Soif?
Not something we could define.
No, and that's not the question.
It's meaning.
The question was not how we define it. Is there meaning? Does Oirin Soif have meaning?
It has meaning.
That's the answer to your question. Since we were not prepared now to get into it, but you understand that your seichel, that Oirin Soif has phenomenal meaning. And the open field, likewise, has phenomenal meaning. Okay? Relative to the street contours.
Can we say that in this context, Orain Sof, the Orain Sof has a it's the big picture, or it helps you to see the big picture.
Oirin Sof is beyond picture.
Granted, okay, yeah. But I'm just saying, in this, if your goal is to see something, then you're using it for in the context of a picture.
Well, our goal is to see the world from the way Chassidus looks at it, not to see Chassidus the way the world looks at it. The big picture is a worldly perspective.
Already.
Oirin Sof is a Chassidus. So it's okay. I'm not negating what you said, but I'd like to want to open up, to understand what we are trying to get to. Okay. Okay, so the line begins with Malomat Ram Kabli Me'elyon Shel Kav, that those levels that receive their oir Me'elyon Shel Kav from the upper part of the Kav, Shekor Riv Yoiser El Ho'in Sof, which is closer to the Oirin Sof. Shehu Bechinas Mayla Shaboy. The Oirin Sof is the Mayla Shaboy in the Kav. This is the Mayla of the Kav. Why is the Oirin Sof the Mayla in the Kav? It's an obvious question, an obvious answer, so to speak. The point is, what makes it Mayla because it has more of the Oirin Sof, more appreciation of Oirin Sof rather than a multi-pointed Kav. So this is the Bechinas Mayla Shaboy. This is the Mayla of in the Kav. Harei Hein Bechinas Mayla. Okay, this is the words which I failed to notice yesterday. שהריהם בבחינת mayla. Those that receive from Elyon Shekav are bibchinas mayla. I always explain that bibchinas mayla means they tend towards mayla. They have a quality. They nifchan with mayla element. Bibchinas mayla does not mean they're higher, on a higher state and a higher floor. Their orientation, their tendency is towards the mayla. Bibchinas mayla.
So mayla here is being used as in the sense of advantage.
No. Mayla means higher. Bibchinas mayla.
So,
A human being, as we always say, insists on standing on 2 feet, although it makes his stand precarious relative to the animal. Wow. And yet he insists on it. Not because it's convenient, but because he is bibchinas mayla. He cannot be crawling on the floor. He cannot be bound, earthbound. He strives to the upper. Okay, let's continue now. As it becomes more distant from the upper edge of the kav, that becomes bibchinas mata. It has the bechina. It tends towards the mata, because the mata is what gives it base. The coarser the element is, the lower it is, the more it tends to the bottom, because that is where it is, so to speak, more secure. This is what's holding it up.
Wait, it feels that it's based on the earth, even though it's coming from above.
The word say, if I'm just using, it belongs there.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And if a bibchinas, I'm emphasizing bibchinas mayla. I'd like that we should understand these very fine nuances. V'zehu, and thus this explains the point that shahakav nikro kav hamido. Now the kav is referred to and is described as called kav hamido, the kav, the line of measurement. Lihiyois, I'm going straight to the next line. Lihiyois due to the fact shalidei hakav humidis ho'eres. It is via the kav that the oires get a measure, get a different statuses, higher and higher. Im ha'hamshacha hi me'elyena shel kav. If the hamshacha is in the oil from elyena shel kav, from the upper part of the kav, ukmoi, for example, as it is because of parts of kav, the yak. Parts of the yak. We're talking about worlds. World, as we already pointed out, the difference between a sphere and a world is that sphere speaks about one specific sphere, or a midah. World is a complete structure. Top and bottom and the middle. Therefore, Ak is Odom Kadmon, which is the highest level in the Kav. After the Tzimtzum, it's called Ak, Odom Kadmon. And the Odom Kadmon, it's called Odom because it has a full structure of Odom. All the spheres. But it is on this super level. much higher than even Atzilus, and certainly than Biyah. But nonetheless, there is a world. This is called a world of Ein Sof, an infinite world. Infinity and world are two contradictory terms, it would seem, but there is this element of the infinity in world, of a worldly infinity. Okay, parts of the this is parts of the word parts of means gestalt, the structure, a complete structure of Ak, or the Makabel, which receives its oil mibchino ha'elyeno shel hakaf, from the upper bechina of the cup. This sentence here, bechina ha'elyeno shel hakaf. Why not me'elyeno shel hakaf? What would be bechina ha'elyeno shel hakaf? Let's see if we can catch this nuance. Rosh Hashiva is giving a shir, and he's presenting the shir with all its details, structure, kashas, truths, and so forth, quoting different gemaras and explanations. Every Talmud who listens to the shir will hear a different aspect in the shir. There are those who will be focused on the kasha and the teretz. Those who will be focused on the concepts. Those who will be impressed by the breadth and the scope of the shir. Everyone is going to have a different relationship. That's the bechina within what you draw, which attracts you. The kav is open for any level to appreciate it, but every level in the world appreciates a different level of the kav. Parts of Ak appreciates Eliyena shel kav, bechina Eliyena shel kav, because parts of Ak, this is a world, but it's, as I said, the world of Ein Sof quality, and therefore it relates to the Eliyena element of the kav. Shemakaba bechina Eliyena shel kav, shehu, which is bikirov le'elin soy baruch. This Eliyena shel kav is bikirov le'elin soy, and parts of Ak, that is exactly what it relates to. This is what's meaningful to it. And the worlds which are below the Ak, makabim b'vchinas richuk, they receive the oil in soif b'vchinas richuk at a distance. They do not go all the way to the top, so to speak. B'chinas richuk means, how does this translate in worldly terms rather than in Oyin Sof terms? Like we had this discussion, brief discussion, we didn't go into it. Why do things fall down? Because there's gravity. This is Bechina Tachteino. This is the worldly perspective. There is no significance to it from a godly perspective.
That explanation is the
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And it lends itself to be grasped. But really, nobody knows what the gravity is either. But it's a clear worldly formulation. Then there is a completely different formulation, but you relate to it from a godly perspective. How much spirit is there and so forth. And this that Mekame Bechinas Richuk. They receive their oil Bechinas Richuk. Richuk means a distance from the oil in Seif, where the oil is recognized from in a worldly scope, in a worldly level. This is true likewise in every sphere, just as we say in the world of art. In every sphere, in detail, in every sphere there is that element. Each sphere is different than the other sphere in terms of what it relates to in the cup. Now this explains what it says in its Chaim. The Bekeser v'chochmo, that in Keser and Chochmo, Meir, Oyer Yisoiv, Bikiru, Mokum. Their Oyer Yisoiv shines, Bikiru, Mokum, close up, in a close-up manner. Even though this is not Oyer Yisoiv, this is the Kav, but it's recognized that the Kav is actually connected to the Oyer Yisoiv. Even though all you have is the Kav, but still the Kav is representative and comes from the Oyer Yisoiv. The Oyer Yisoiv is Bikiruv Mokum. It's close by. Or Bina, then when it comes on to Bina. Bina is where it becomes structured according to that worldly perspective. Bechinas Richuk. The Oyer Yisoiv is Meir Bechinas Richuk. In a Richuk sense. You know it's there behind it, but it is not coming along with it. But you see, what you take is that which lends itself to be defined in a worldly form. Behind, and the Rebbe explains, Shebebino, it means that in Bina Meir Ho'er Ein Sof, the Oyer Yisoiv illuminates K'mei Shehu B'Geder HaSoga, as the Oyer Yisoiv is B'Geder within the realm of HaSoga, of comprehension. This is world, where it can be comprehended. What is Hasoga comprehended? Hasoga means to reach and to grasp. In order to grasp something, we have already pointed out many times, there has to be some borders, some limit. You can be able to identify the borders of an object in order to grab, to be masik, to grasp it. World is all built with borders.
Pits.
What?
Or pits?
Borders.
Oh, borders.
Bebina, he says, Meir Ho'er Yisoiv, K'mei Shehu B'Geder HaSoga. The Oyer Yisoiv, as the Ein Sof is recognized B'Geder HaSoga, within the realm of HaSoga, of comprehension. Oyer Yisoiv and HaSoga are a contradictious terms, but B'Geder HaSoga. In other words, we're going to identify the Oyer Yisoiv in a manner that we can put it in perspective, even though it remains Oyer Yisoiv. It's called Geder HaSoga. Either by comparison, or by pointing out that there are different levels in there and so on and so forth. Together hasod, ubechokma, and in chokma. We said the chokma in Keser is birichu kol mokim. Bechokma meir hoir in soif. There the oir in soif shines kmei shehu mayla migeder hasod adayin. Mayla above. Migeder hasod. What is geder hasod mean? Not just beyond comprehension. Everybody beyond comprehension. We all have something that is beyond our comprehension, but we have something that is within reach of our comprehension. Geder hasod means beyond the whole principle of hasod. He does not have the elements of hasod altogether. It has no borders, it has no design, it has no form. So it has to be, so it is by definition the mayla megeder hasod. Adayin. Ukmei sheyizboyer, as this will still be explained.
That's a question. You mentioned like the way you described the Bechinas, the Bechinas Elyonos Shekav, that basically you're saying that the Kav is basically available for the worlds to makabel them as they, I guess, as their tendency is, as their what they. We were saying that. Just to understand, we were talking about those earlier that the kalim sort of come in the way that the or, like the ofen or. So I'm trying to understand like how, like is it we're saying that the worlds are determining how the or is coming in, or
We're talking now exclusively about the oil. How the oil is designed and measured by the cup. Ultimately, this enables the oil ultimately to be imbued in kalim. Right now we're talking about the oil per se.
And so then when we say that that Ach takes it in a certain way and another takes it in a certain way, is that determined by
the oil?
or?
We're talking about oil.
That's determined by the or.
Right now we're talking only about the oil.
And okay.
That's as if to say there's no other factor. The light just chooses to show up this way over here, that way over there.
Yeah, it's closer to it. It's more sensitive. It senses more the oil inside, and therefore it's a higher.
It meaning it itself, light per se, comes lower down. There's no resistance or certain kalim that limit it. It just is choosing this way over here, that way over there.
That's right.
Okay.
So what about like Ak with like it's not the kalim of Ak which is doing it. It's something about the
Right, the oil.
But doesn't the or come from the kav? Isn't that where the or?
Yeah. This is Yonishal Kav. Kav is an oil, but it's oil in the form of a kav, which enables it ultimately to be limited and ultimately to come down in Kalim. Kalim is first in Atzilus. Way back then.
Way back up.
Yeah, we're talking about Yonishal Kav. Ak. Come on. Petty thinking.
So then, where does this tendency come from to take from it, like in a certain way? I mean, isn't the or the kav that should be determining what Ak should take? Or I mean, what is Ak? And I'm thinking a very Magushim way right now because I don't know how else to think of Ak because I don't have the I don't know, but like what is how does Ak Like, what about Ak is allowing that as opposed to something else, taking something else? We're saying that's not the kalim of it, it's something else, or
in order to discuss this further, we have to speak in terms of what the kav is. Kav is oirin soif in a multi-pointed line. How is that represent oirin soif, and how does it become a multi-pointed line? And what is this needs a special discussion. But right now, we're skipping the discussion on this. We're just saying that Kav is a line of points. Line of points, by definition, has the upper section because that is where it is connected to the Yisrael, and the lower section which is further away from the Yisrael. And from this perspective, these different perspectives, we can speak in terms of Elyon Shel Kav and Tachtei Shel Kav. Okay, and different beginners in the Kav itself. It's true. There's much more that we don't know. Believe me, it's always going to be much more what we don't know, right, than what we do know.
Yeah.
All right, this is going to be it for today.